Hello and welcome everybody to today's News Tonight, episode 146. Wow. This is, as always, the weeknight news show where we're joined by special guests, our lovely patrons, and our awesome YouTube audience to discuss the day's gaming news. I'm your host for today, Ash Paulson, and today I'm joined by my good friends and GVG co-founders, Steve Bowling and Derek Bittner, along with our very special guest, IGN senior editor, Axe of the Blood God podcast creator, Nintendo voice chat co-host, twice returning TNT guest, and personal dear friend of mine, Kat Bailey. Kat, how are you doing? Thanks so much for coming back onto the show with us.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for having me on the show. I'm very excited to talk about video game news. It's my favorite topic.
Oh, yeah. Always keeps everybody happy.
Oh, yeah.
How did we know? How did we know? Yeah, there's never any negative discourse in video game news. Come on, ever. But no, this is your third time on the show. It's actually been, I looked it up, it's been about 7 months, if you can believe it, since you were last on.
Oh my gosh.
Too long, but here I am.
It doesn't even feel that long, honestly.
I gotta say, Kat, I'm really feeling the upgrade to your backdrop here.
Thank you.
I love it.
Art behind you. It's looking clean.
It's all the IGN stuff. We spent a long time getting this backdrop perfected, so.
I love it.
That's beautiful.
Just to remind everybody, we are in the midst of kind of overhauling the way we handle super chats. So if we do get any super chats today, we will be reading them throughout the show, not all in one go. We may not read everything. Every super chat will appear on screen, but depending on how many we get, we may not be able to read them all out just to keep the show moving. So just to remind everyone there, if you don't get your super chat read out, that's the only reason why, but we will do our best to get to as many as possible. Also, just as a quick reminder, when we hit 75,000 subs right here on YouTube, we're giving away a Switch OLED model for free to a random subscriber. All you have to do is be subscribed. Steve has the Switch in hand, and it's somewhere. It is in his room. But yeah, all you got to do is be subscribed when we hit 75K, and you might win a free Switch OLED. And if you want a closer term goal to shoot for, if we hit 70K subs before November, Derek and I have pledged to do No Shave November, so you can see me look really, really bad and haggardly with a beard and all sorts of nastiness. But
we're just 800 subs away from that right now.
I know it's looking like we might actually make it. So if we do hit 70K by November, that's what's happening. So yeah, help us get there. And if you want to see what Derek and I look like with not shaving for a month, then
like
I don't know why you would want that, but there you go. So
I just really want to look like Robin Williams in Jumanji going out. What year is it?
Oh god. Wow. Yeah. So we were talking a little bit before the show, Kat, and you just previewed Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. I did it for IGN.com. I'm going to be talking about it a little bit on Nintendo Voice Chat on Friday, but it was a hands-off preview. So basically, they were just having us watch a video while a Treehouse employee guided us through the gameplay and talked through everything. And y'all, I have to say, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is my favorite generation. Like sentimental favorite generation. I'm not going to go out and claim that it's better than the 5th generation or even necessarily the 3rd generation, though I think the 3rd generation is kind of actually a train wreck in its own fun way. Like I can talk about a whole podcast about why 3rd generation is so problematic, but I have many fond memories about 4th gen because I was living in Japan at the time. I was playing it in Japanese. It was a really nice upgrade in many ways over 3rd gen. Its main problem was that it had a really sluggish battle system, but that one's fixed in this one. I kind of like the music. I like the vibes. It has got this spooky vibe to it. Spooky vibes game.
Yeah.
It has one of the best. It's actually a sentimental favorite of mine too, Kat, because that's the Pokemon that got me back into it. Because I skipped 3rd gen. I was like, I'm too old for this. I don't care about Pokemon anymore. Then everybody around me in college was just like, new Pokemon coming out. I was like, maybe I should check this out. Like it's still being big. So I
should try this Pokemon thing.
Yeah, maybe I should go back into it. Is it still good? And yeah, I got back into it through Pokemon Pearl. Loved I think it's the trainer battle theme. The one that goes dun 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 dun. Like it just has this great build up to it. And honestly, if it wasn't for that game, I would not be the Pokemon fan I am today because that's what got me back into the series and getting each new release at that point. And wouldn't have the knowledge base I needed for this job, that's for sure. I'd be out of luck, considering Pokemon is what kind of put me on the map on YouTube. So,
A thing that people don't remember is that Pokemon Diamond and Pearl's English localization was done by somebody who I believe was very active on the Something Awful forums. So the original Diamond and Pearl localization has a ton of memes and Something Awful in jokes.
That's so funny. I
don't think I realized that.
I didn't know
one
that.
of the most. It's one of the most memey localization scripts in the series, if I recall correctly. So it was a big talking point back in the day, which made me a little sad because I was playing in Japanese, which of course plays it quite a bit more straight. But I'm into it. I'm into the vibe of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Like initially, when it was initially announced, I was like, really? Because I thought they were going to kind of, do Sword and Shield, but in Sinnoh. And I would have been kind of okay with that. I felt like they did a really good job of upgrading the wild areas in the DLC for Sword and Shield. So I was like, great. And they'll just keep taking it even further in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Instead, I get kind of what seemed like a bare bones remake on the face of it. Sort of a lesser version almost of the Link's Awakening remake from a couple years ago.
Yeah. I've been saying too that I'm really into the vibe. I love the chibi character models in the overworld, and for me, it's going to serve as kind of a nice reintroduction to Sinnoh because all I really remember of Diamond and Pearl was that they were my least favorite generation, and I'm looking forward to having a kind of a new lease on Gen 4, a new lease on Sinnoh by kind of being reintroduced to the region through these remakes. So even though I wasn't a big fan of Gen 4 back in the day, I'm completely open to it drawing me in via these remakes. And I still did finish Diamond. I played all the way through and played a bunch of it. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to kind of having a reminder of what makes Sinnoh so great. And like you, Kat, I'm enjoying the vibe here, the visual style so far.
And my angle on the podcast, or sorry, not the podcast, the preview was that it was kind of the classic old school Pokemon that we've been missing. Even down to the music. The music is really authentic to the original feel of it. And I didn't realize how much I kind of missed this version of Pokemon. The ones that didn't have the Gigantamax forms or any of the kind of the feature creep. And, it was a fairly simplistic presentation. And now I'm like, okay, I'm just ready to take a trip down memory lane. If it has the Battle Frontier, so much the better. And
I was actually about to ask that. If did they say whether the Platinum content is in there?
No, they did not. They said stay tuned when I asked them about it. So,
of course,
nice.
So they are being really coy about the map, the world map. So it makes me wonder if they intend to have post-game content about what they're going to be showing. And if they have the Battle Frontier, that's it. That's an instant buy for me.
That'd be...
Right. Gotcha.
You could sink so many hours into the Battle Frontier, so...
Yeah. Really quick, everybody, just to let you know why. I know I look really weird on camera sometimes. There's some weird ghosting effect going on. We're testing out a new recording interface, so if I look weird for a while in and out, that's why. Sorry about that, but it is just affecting me, thankfully, so... That's what's going on with that. Before we move on to the news, I do have a quick question for you, Kat. We've talked about this at length on the show already, so I can't spend too much time on this. But you and I have had many, many, many passionate conversations about Smash and who gets in before. We played so much Smash together. The dream came true for me. You know how much of a big Sora fan I am.
So happy for you, Ash.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
How did you feel though when he was revealed? You're
completely indifferent.
I knew it. Yep, I knew it.
That was written all over my face.
I knew it.
That is a definitely a good for you.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Gotcha.
When Sora got announced, like the first thing I thought was, "Oh, Ash is gonna be so happy he got his boy."
Yep. I don't know if you saw my reaction here in the channel, but I popped off.
I bet you must have gone nuts.
Oh, I did, and I can't believe we didn't get a noise complaint. I still can't believe that it was 7 in the morning, and I was screaming my head off about an anime boy getting into Smash Brothers. But I was very happy. Like I said, I can't spend too much time on it, but I did want to confirm at least that you were pretty indifferent. I had a feeling you were, and I was thinking about it's like she's probably not quite as into this as I am.
No.
but yeah, well, we'll still have to play and get some matches and
good
see.
Good finish though to the Super Smash Brother Ultimate announcements. Like okay, that's a good capper, and it felt like it brought it all the way back around. We've spent so much time, speculating over like whether it's going to be Sora was ever going to be able to get into Smash Brothers. So to put Sora in there feels like there's like, okay, that's it. We made it. It's the end of a dream. We can move on with our lives now.
Maybe.
Maybe. Until the next one.
Exactly. I saw
quit.
somebody on Resetera is already trying to get like, let's do Smash Brothers 6 predictions. Like, no, I need a break. No more.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, I wanted to bring that up really quick because I know how much we obviously both love Smash and played so much together.
So much. I've been playing again recently, and I love it so much. It's so great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, same, of course. Well, I never really stop, but yeah.
I know you don't.
Yeah, and I
kick
never
my
really
butt
do.
every time.
Not every time. You took a few matches off me last time we played.
I took one match off you the last time we played. I was like, oh my god, I took a match off Ash. I can stop now. I don't ever have to play again.
I'm done forever.
All right. Well, we do definitely have some news stories to get to. And like I said, everybody, don't worry. We will read out some super chats, just not all of them, but they will all appear on screen. So really appreciate your understanding there, just so we can keep the show moving. But let's get that first news story up on screen. And it has to do with what else? I know you're tired of it. I know I'm tired of it. The Switch 4K. So let's get that up on screen. Now that sounds to me like it's that's pretty much the story is written right there. But on top of all this, our own former TNT guest Nate the Hate, aka Nate Drake on Resetera, basically just dropped a bunch of new information that he's claiming about the Switch 4K that is eventually going to come out. It is a real thing, and we've been talking about it forever. There's a lot to cover here. But essentially, some of the bigger points here is that he's saying it no longer sounds like a Switch Pro, but a Switch 2/Switch 4K, based on how the marketing chooses to present this thing. But that it might actually be a full-on sequel/follow-up to the Switch. 4K will be achieved through DLSS. Developers are working on both exclusives as well as some PlayStation and Xbox ports. And games are being targeted to be done by late 2022, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's when it would release. Of course, this is all touch and go stuff here. But also, the big thing here, though, is that data miners have suggested that the Switch 4K may not be natively backwards compatible with original Switch games because of hardware differences, but it is suggested that Nintendo has options to pursue backwards compatibility. So there, like I said, there's a lot to go through here. This is our big story of the day. But Kat, you, of course, are our guest, so I want to get your take on this first. How are you feeling about the Switch 4K as an overall entity? Do you believe it exists? Do you believe it's coming? Where are you falling on this?
Oh, yeah, I think that Switch 4K is definitely a thing in some way or another. At least Nintendo has explored the possibilities of it. I mean, we saw this news story from Bloomberg a few weeks ago where the kits went out to the developers who are working on the 4K games and everything. And, of course, Nintendo strenuously denied that that was the case, probably so that they could actually preserve Switch OLED sales. But in the back of my head, when I pre-ordered my Switch OLED, and yes, I did buy one, I was thinking to myself, man, I'm such a sucker. They're totally going to release a Switch Pro next year. Because, I mean, the Switch is getting a little on in years, and it's about time for Nintendo to kind of properly update the hardware, not just the screen, as much as I enjoy the Switch OLED. And of course, as we all know, the chip shortages and other issues that continue to impact tech makes that pretty difficult. But I think that one way or another, Nintendo would love to update the hardware, and it makes total sense that if they're taking another step forward with a quote-unquote Switch Pro, that the dock would be ready to support it in some fashion. Now, will it be 2022? Will it be early 2023? I have no idea. Nintendo moves in mysterious ways.
Pretty
yes.
much.
Yes, indeed they do. I mean, so what you're saying is Nintendo coming out and denying it. You mean you think they're lying? They didn't just say, "Oh, it's not happening," so it's not happening. I know, right?
Yeah. Who knows? Like, I think that for the sake of their investors, they sort of wanted to come out and say, "Nope, it's not true. It's not the case." I felt like they kind of tossed the reporter under the bus a little bit when they did that. But,
Oh yeah.
I have no special knowledge or insight into Nintendo's thinking, but there's been so much smoke around the notion of a Switch Pro or a Switch 4K that I just feel like there has to be something happening. Plans can change as they always have, and especially during pandemic times, plans are incredibly fluid at any given moment, and Nintendo is certainly not immune.
Right. Right, exactly. Steve, as our resident, obviously tech wizard man, how are you feeling about the stuff Nate the Hate is talking about in his kind of expose here?
I mean, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
I've been saying this for a year now, that Nintendo has probably faced the same issues that Nvidia, their partner who for the hardware within the Switch, is facing, and that's this massive chip shortage that's been going on. When the Switch OLED was announced, I was very confident that these were parts that were destined for what we've all been calling the Switch Pro for the last 2 years. I don't think Nintendo ever intended, until it was too late, to put out just a revision of the Switch with OLED screen and with a redesigned dock. It feels weirdly substantial for what it is, because when you actually play a Switch OLED, it feels like a really big upgrade that's missing that one key component. And I feel that was what happened here. Nintendo, was working with Nvidia. They have plans to release a Switch with updated internals. I firmly believe the Switch OLED model was supposed to be that Switch, but the chip shortages caused it to be difficult to get dev kits out. It caused it to be difficult to source, those more powerful internals, but they already had just probably millions of OLED displays, new docks built, and they needed to find a way to clear this stuff out of their warehouse without letting it sit, and thus the Switch OLED model was born. Because it feels like if I had got this with upgraded internals, it would feel properly next gen. It sits, it's got similar design language to the PS5. It feels like something new, which Nintendo, when they revise stuff, they very seldom do it in this big of a way.
Right.
So they did it with the new 3DS just last gen.
True. I feel like, though, when we get the eventual Switch 2 or whatever it's going to be called, that it will look a lot like the OLED model that just came out, just with much more powerful internals. And I firmly believe, if you're going to achieve 4K on a device like the Switch, DLSS is the only way to do it that makes any kind of sense. I mean, the 4K machines we all have under our TVs now are gigantic in comparison. So that should tell you that they have to pull off some kind of technical wizardry to kind of fake their way up to 4K. And the only thing that surprises me is that Nintendo is even thinking of 4K at this point. But Bloomberg, they said 11 companies. That's a very specific number of companies working on Switch stuff. 11 that they could verify, right? And it's not like they name dropped everyone. So of course the one they name dropped is going to come out and say, "No, of course we're not doing that. we don't want Nintendo angry at us." So yeah, I firmly believe that there's, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a ton of smoke. We're definitely getting a next gen Switch as soon as it is feasible for Nintendo to do so. And like Kat kind of implied, I wouldn't be surprised if the Switch OLED actually ended up delaying the release of that model further, because Nintendo doesn't want to say like, "Oh, hey, it's been 6 months. Let's release something new again." So I think if anything, it kind of put a dent in those plans.
You mean they don't want to use the 32X Saturn strategy? It works so well for Sega.
They'll just drop it in stores, like random Toys R Us's will have it for like $500. It'll be fine.
No, for all the reasons you all have mentioned, it is so obvious to me that this thing is real, whatever it ends up being called. But it does seem so obvious to me that there is a 4K capable Switch model on the way whenever it actually does come out, and whatever it's actually called. There's where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's a lot of smoke here, a lot.
What I don't understand is, okay, if you are trying to develop a Switch that has improved internals and everything, are you not undercutting yourself by putting out a Switch OLED that then everybody goes out and buys, right? Because they're hungry for a new Switch update. And then a year later, you put out the Switch Pro. And how many people would be like, I already just bought a new Switch. I'm not going to buy a new one. Jeez, Nintendo, settle down. The Nintendo Switch, as it is still selling really well, despite the, despite the fact that the hardware is getting a little bit long on the tooth. I don't feel like they necessarily had to put out the Switch OLED. Like, this thing wasn't truly crying out for a half-step revision. So I'm just trying to get a read on Nintendo's thinking here. Was it just that they're like, well, we went too far already. We got to put something out. I guess we're going to put this out.
I also wonder if it's maybe just a way to keep boosting sales. Because I don't think the Switch is slowing down, but, it helps to put out a new piece of hardware and just keep it going. Because it could be a combination of factors. I honestly don't know. This story is weird. It makes sense why everybody's tired of it, because it's such an open secret. We know something's coming. We know there's, it's going to happen eventually. We just don't know exactly what form it'll take. And I think most people just want to wait and see what it actually is. And I'm looking at this story is the same feeling I get covering NX rumors for a year. Just it could have this, it could have this. It's like, cool. I think we have an idea of what's coming, or at least there's something coming. Just wake me up when it's here. I don't care.
Yeah.
Classy Mudkip is like, a lot of the people who bought the OLED would triple dip anyway. And you know what? Guilty. I would totally buy another one.
Steve.
I would too.
Yeah.
But
I'm
also, I
well.
am unique.
Yeah.
My whole thing is, if Switch puts out a version that has a better screen and a better processor and everything, of course I'll buy it, because I am an inveterate hobbyist. I must have the best version of each platform at all given times. I'm a weirdo.
To address a question Flat posted in our YouTube chat saying, is it even possible to make a 4K handheld? What we're talking about here, we're not talking about the Switch itself having a 4K screen. We're talking about the dock and the Switch's internals being upgraded to output 4K in dock mode on a 4K TV or display. We're not necessarily talking about a 4K handheld. Although that would be really cool, but it would skyrocket the cost too, right? Like that would just make that thing incredibly expensive, even more than it's already going to be.
Hey, I'd pay $1,000 for a proper Nintendo Switch. I just bought a Steam Deck, for God's sake.
Oh God.
There you go. Nice. The main sticking point that I've seen in Nate the Hate's report here is, of course, the concern about there not being native backwards compatibility. And there are some people I've seen on Resetera saying, well, this is modern Nintendo, so the one big mistake they can make, they're going to make it. Doomsday, it's not going to be backwards compatible. I choose to believe that Nintendo knows what they've gotten here with the Switch. They know the lightning they've struck. They know, They basically got lightning in a bottle with the Switch, especially after what happened with Wii U.
Modern Nintendo.
Go ahead.
People are saying that modern Nintendo is self-sabotaging. We're talking about, this is like the most successful Nintendo's been since the Wii era.
Right.
I'm kind of willing to give them the benefit of the doubt here. Like, this is the most successful and culturally relevant it has been since at least 2007.
Exactly. I have to believe that they're going to figure something out with regard to backwards compatibility, because if they segment their market like that and the new Switch is not compatible at all with the Switch's whole library, I just don't. I feel like someone at Nintendo knows that's just not tenable. They've got to figure backwards compatibility out with this thing, especially if they're calling it the Switch. Of course, we don't know that. But assuming it is a Switch successor and it's still going to use the Switch branding, there's no way they can get away with having no backwards compatibility with the original Switch. At least in my opinion. That would shock me if they made such a massive blunder.
I mean, Nintendo being on top of the world and making blunders is not necessarily uncommon. Like Wii to Wii U.
Wii to Wii U. I mean, they could.
Super Nintendo, technically Super Nintendo to N64, no matter what you think of that system.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah.
I think it kind of depends on the current CEO, president, who, by all accounts is quite, I shall say, practical in his approach. Certainly to compare to Iwata, rest in peace, who was a very visionary guy, like a dreamer, like always thinking in abstract and crazy and interesting ideas. The elevated hobbyist, as it were. And the current president is thinking much more in traditional terms, such as, transmedia properties. Let's leverage our characters to make theme parks. Let's do movies with Chris Pratt. Let's, that kind of thing. So I'm kind of wondering if, we are going to see Nintendo become maybe a little more conservative going forward in the way that they approach things. Maybe they won't, kind of zig when we're expecting them to zag.
Right.
Could be.
All I know is I'm so looking forward to this thing actually being out and finally having an official name, and so all the speculation can stop and we can just talk about this thing as a known quantity.
And then we can speculate on the next thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it never ends, the speculation
8K train. Switch.
Yeah.
We've been talking about the next step for the Switch since the launch of the Switch, since before the launch of the Switch. So it'll never stop. It's the nature of the business, unfortunately.
That is true.
I mean, hey, for some folks, Nintendo's still doomed. They've been doomed since 1996, and they're still doomed. So, sometimes that the conversation never really changes. I guess the more things change, the more they stay the same, right?
True.
All right. Well, I think we said just about everything we can on that. We do have a few more news
Good
stories.
episode, everybody.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, see you later. We do have a few super chats, though. So let's go ahead and read a few of these out. Calamity513 with $2 saying, my Versus series is done for now. It'll be back soon. Well, good to know. Thank you for all the super chats over the various episodes, man. We really appreciate it. And those Versus matchups are fun. So looking forward to it. Thank you. Blaystar25 with $5 saying, haven't seen you guys live lately because of my schedule at work, but in 2 weeks I'll be switching over to night shifts and I can catch you guys before work. Well, hell yeah, man. That is awesome to hear. Nice. Really glad to hear that, and we'll be very happy to have you here live. So thank you for letting us know. TB Skyen with 50 Danish krones saying, new super chat system. That sounds fun. Let's test it out. Yeah, let us know what you think. And that goes for everybody, by the way. Let us know. It is an ongoing dialogue, ongoing conversation. We want to make the show as best as we can for all of you. And so let us know how you're feeling about this new super chat format, the visual format, how it looks, only reading out some of them just to keep the show moving. Definitely we're listening. So please, keep letting us know how you feel about everything. With that said, let's go ahead and move on to our second news story.
Before that, Ash, I think we forgot to do something at the top of the show.
Sponsorship?
Yeah, did you read out the sponsor?
No.
Because I do not remember that.
There is no sponsor for today's episode.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's still marked in the back end, so.
No worries. No. It's okay. There's no way you could have known. But yeah, no sponsor for today's episode. But thank you to everyone who is currently sponsoring the show, and all of our past sponsors as well. We really love you all. Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, let's go ahead and move on to our next news story, which is a Good Vibes update on a story we reported on a few months ago now. So let's get that up on screen. So, if you remember correctly, and I think this was another episode I hosted, a few months back, Fortnite introduced something called Impostors Mode, which was basically just Among Us. Obviously, it's its own twist on the formula, but it was clearly directly inspired by Among Us. But Epic made no mention of that. The Fortnite accounts made no mention of that. They didn't credit Among Us at all with anything, really. And it felt really kind of squicky, and it led to a whole conversation. Well, now I'm happy to report that in the Fortnite account's latest update on Impostors Mode, they say straight up, Impostors Mode, inspired by the hit Among Us game, received some updates in version 18.20, including, and I won't get into what it actually includes. The whole point here is that now they're actually giving Among Us credit where credit's due. And not only that, but for the Fortnite account is now teasing an official crossover with Among Us between Fortnite Impostors Mode and Among Us. Now, I don't play Fortnite, I don't play Among Us, and I don't play Impostors Mode. But I do love the eventual good vibes that this story arrived at, where the big guys, the juggernaut, did recognize the indie studio whose idea they essentially cribbed for their latest game mode. And I just think this is great that there's probably going to be an official crossover between Impostors Mode and Among Us. Kat, do you have any interest in either of these? And Among Us, Fortnite, do you have any?
I love
skin
Among
in the
Us.
game here. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, I played a lot of Among Us during COVID times. I mean, it's still COVID times, but you get the idea. we were getting people on Zoom party chats, like people who don't normally play a ton of games were having a great time, lots of laughing, insanity, that kind of thing. Yeah, Among Us was one of my absolute favorite games last year. It's just like Fortnite, to take an idea that was done better elsewhere, probably. I mean, they did it with their freaking Battle Royale mode. That's what they're based on, is theft.
Yep.
So I'm not surprised at all that they were like, oh, this Among Us thing is quite popular. Let's just put it in our game. And then it's just like Fortnite to turn bad PR into a collab with the Among Us people. And the Among Us people are, of course, thrilled because they're like, oh, sweet. Yeah, we want to be collaborating with Fortnite. Sure. Like, this is great PR for us. And Fortnite's like, we have all the money in the world. We'll just make everything go away by paying for it. Fortnite is a game that people play that I don't like. Apologies to Fortnite players. I just like the culture around Fortnite. Like, the thing itself is fine, but to me, Fortnite embodies crass commercialism at its absolute worst in the video game space. What do we do when we talk about Fortnite? We're talking about frickin' superhero skins most of the time, or collaborations with NBA, or things like that. It's barely a game anymore. It's just
things like that.
It's just a rolling commercial at this point. So am I surprised at all that they turned a controversy with the Among Us people into a frickin' social hit? No way. Absolutely not. This is so on brand for Fortnite.
100% on brand. And of course, I hope that they didn't finally give Among Us the recognition it and its team deserves because of peer pressure, because they were basically had people breathing down their neck. I assume that's probably what it was. I can't imagine that it was just like out of the goodness of their own hearts, but I'd like to believe that it was. But either way,
no. There's no goodness in their own heart.
I know.
You cannot look at the lawsuits and whatnot. It's like, we need a win after this. We've gotten some bad PR thanks to this lawsuit with Apple. Let's
exactly.
There's all cynicism when it comes to Fortnite and just their motives. Like, they were comparing themselves to 1984. They can.
No. I assume it's because they felt like they had to, and because they needed some positive press, as you said, Derek. But the end result is that Among Us are getting their props and slops properly.
Good on them for getting paid. That is the big takeaway here. Is good on you, Among Us devs, for
good job.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that Max Ethan is like, Ash is forever the believer in humanity. And you know what, Ash, you are.
I want your optimism, but I'm not always.
You are so pure of heart. It's wonderful.
Well, I guess maybe that's why I love Sora so much. See, that's what's so funny. In my daily life, I'm like, oh, fucking people, man, drive me crazy. But I do try to stay optimistic. It doesn't always work, but it's more fun to go through life with optimism than pessimism, in my opinion.
There you go.
I think I just try to be realistic, and sometimes I allow myself to be optimistic, but I don't know. I would rather believe in the inherent goodness of some people out there than just think that everything's shit, Just
Absolutely.
It's a more fun.
Let's all be like Ash. His friends is his power.
Yeah,
exactly. I guess that's why I love Sora so much. And as Jessica the Dragon Maid in our live audience chat says, hey, it worked for Sora, so...
Exactly.
I guess it did. So yeah. Well, cool. Well, let's go ahead and read out a few more super chats before we move on to our next story. First is Phi Peruvian Soul from the Fa54, who even tells us PEN equals Peruvian Soul. Thank you so much, the Fa54. That's so helpful. Saying I was a bit burned out of Pokemon around 2017 since Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon was almost the same as Sun and Moon, but I'm fully prepared now to go back to Sinnoh. Well, that's awesome. It sounds like all of us here are as well. And I hope you enjoy your journey back into Sinnoh just as much as I hope Kat does, and we all do, all of us Pokemon fans.
I've been burned out on Pokemon for like 10 years, so I totally
Yeah.
understand you. But I keep going back because there's just something about it that pulls me in.
Keeps
After I saw Brilliant
Totally.
Diamond and Shining Pearl, I fired up my copy of Sword and Shield, and I moved a bunch of Pokemon from Pokemon Go over to it, and I'm just like, oh, it's so good to see all my pals. Oh my god, it's so much fun.
Yeah. Next is $5 from Late Night Sprite saying on vacation, got some stuff including an N64 custom Robo import, chocolate and soft pretzels, self-care hype. Switch Pro will be the next new 3DS in my opinion. Well, hell yeah, self-care. That should come first always. Take care of yourself, take care of your mental health, and enjoy the chocolate and soft pretzels, man. That's awesome. And the custom Robo import version. That's really cool. Hell yeah. So
Thanks.
Thank you for the super chat. And finally, $49.99. Wow, from How's the Pie. One of my favorite names to read out in these. Thank you so much, How's the Pie. Saying, hey there, recently moved and cut down my commute, so more time to be in the live audience. And got a nice raise today. Thank you for all the work you do. Well, thank you, How's the Pie, for the incredibly generous super chat. And congratulations on your raise. That is so awesome. And thank you so much for sharing some of that, some of those good vibes with us. Steve, I'm seeing in our patron chat that YouTube seems to be taking a massive dump. Is
a massive poo emoji?
Yeah. Is everything still working on your side?
Dropped frames 0.
Yeah, it all looks fine on my end. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. It looks okay on my end, too. So, okay. Sounds like we're good. Cool. Glad to hear it, everybody. All right. Well, that's all the super chats for now. So let's go ahead and move on to our third news story, which has to do with a series that I know is near and dear to both my and Kat's heart. So let's get that up on screen.
Leaving me out, you son of a...
Hey, catch the guest. Catch the guest. She gets deference, all right? So... 11 years after its launch, Final Fantasy XIV has gone from having one of the rockiest MMORPG launches of all time to becoming the most profitable game in the entire franchise. And I love this. What a great, wonderful success story for Final Fantasy XIV. Now, Kat, we had Nadia on just a few days ago, actually, a few episodes ago, and I know she would be screaming from the rooftops right now about this because she's such a big FF14 fan. But yeah, FF14 director Naoki Yoshida has revealed that FF14 has now surpassed 24 million players, and furthermore, that it is the most profitable Final Fantasy game in this series. And this comes from Kat's own IGN. So, Kat, I want to throw this over to you. I know you're not quite as hardcore about FF14 as Nadia is, but I still think you still play 14, correct?
No, I do not play Final Fantasy XIV right now. I'm taking a break.
Oh,
okay. I have played Final Fantasy XIV.
Got it.
Trying to find time to play more, but I'm getting there.
What I'm surprised about is that it's taken this long to become the most profitable game in the series, given the extremely healthy player base and how much money people are paying into that thing. I guess it probably lost so much money at the outset that it took a long time to dig out of that particular hole. You were mentioning Nadia. I'm going to take a second to plug my own podcast. Every month we do a show called Charlene Dropouts with Nadia, Mike Williams, and Victor Hunter, where they talk about Final Fantasy XIV exclusively. It's over on Axe of the Blood God. It shows up every month. So go check it out if you're a Final Fantasy XIV fan. Charlene Dropouts.
Hell yeah. And I've been on Axe of the Blood God, by the way, and it is an awesome show to be
You did a great
part
Final
of
Fantasy ranking with us. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Yeah. We ranked all the FF4 characters. It was a lot of fun. And we ranked all the games. Yeah.
Yeah, you had some strong takes about Final Fantasy 13 versus
I
Final
always
Fantasy
do.
8.
I'm always the one with the strong takes about 13. 13
But I
always place higher than most people will place it.
I appreciate it.
But yeah, no, I know I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Kat, and you as well, Derek. I have played FF14, but I just haven't had the time to go. I've let my subscription lapse because I haven't had time.
My housemate plays a lot of Final Fantasy 14. It's on pretty much every day, all the time. He's always playing it because there's a lot to do in that game. There's so much at any given time. If you're big into the grind and MMO stuff, Final Fantasy XIV is for you. But of course, it has an amazing story as well. And the difference between Final Fantasy XIV and the World of Warcraft is that Final Fantasy XIV is much more focused on being a game, and World of Warcraft is focused on being a service. And I think that's a big difference, honestly, because Final Fantasy XIV is like, we put out this big DLC pack, you finish it, you move on, it's okay. Whereas World of Warcraft is like, we are focused on engagement at all costs, engagement for engagement's sake. And I think that's the difference between Final Fantasy XIV and WoW, honestly. Now, if there's one thing that brings me back into Final Fantasy XIV and Walker, aside from the fact that they seemingly have the whale airship and they go to the moon, is that they have Stardew Valley stuff. And let me tell you guys, if you want to get me into a game, just say Stardew Valley, and I'll be like, hello.
Nice.
It is ingenious how they've found ways to just keep improving this game. It's interesting talking to players who've been at it for a long time and realizing how some of the things that just seem like so smart, such smart additions, took a long time to get implemented. Like flying in the base game was a way later upgrade than I ever would have thought, and it's so useful. The stats on here on IGN is kind of crazy to me. The fact that it was back in 2015, only 6 years ago, there was only 4 million registered players, and it got to 10 million by 2017 thanks to Stormblood, and then doubled in the rest of the time. And that's like, I don't know. I guess it was Shadowbringers that really flipped the switch for a lot of people and just got people talking way more. Because I know I kind of forgot about Final Fantasy XIV until the Shadowbringers presentation at E3, where they also showed off the gameplay of Final Fantasy VII Remake. And all of a sudden I had all these friends on my Twitter just losing their minds over the stuff showing on there. It was like, okay, what is going on in here? And then it's released and everybody's like, this is one of the best Final Fantasy stories ever. I'm like, okay, what is happening? It's that positive word of mouth that I think is what's helped this game for so long, and along with the fact that it's just so gameplay focused, as Kat said.
Right. I mean, my issue is that I had a month subscription and I enjoyed it. I played it on PS5, and I'd like to go back to it. But in that month, I only got to level 8 in my starting area, and as I understand it, there's just a bit more to do in the game than just get to level 8, and that took me a month of like the usual free time I had to play that game, and so I just feel like I would probably die of old age before I actually got through all the expansions. And but it also hurts at the same time because I am a hardcore Final Fantasy fan, and I know how much love there is for all the different games in the series, so much music, so many rearrangements, so much fan service. And I want to experience all that, but I just have to be honest with myself. I just don't have time for an MMO. But if I did, it would be FF14 straight up.
The thing that's frustrating is that A Realm Reborn is definitely the weakest content out of all of them, and that one takes a while to get through, and so it's easy to burn out and be like, I'm not into it before you get to Heavensward. But then when you get to Heavensward, it really picks up a lot.
Right.
So, and honestly, I think it maybe does a disservice to FF14 to think of it in MMO terms, because when I think of MMO terms, I think of, New World, a game where you're just doing a huge amount of grinding all the time, right? Or just collectathons. Final Fantasy XIV is much closer to a traditional RPG than a lot of that. Like, you can really enjoy FF14 pretty well just on your lonesome. There's tons of extra content. There's Stardew Valley stuff as well. But as a kind of if you enjoy it in the terms of a traditional RPG, you can have a blast. It's just every single expansion is basically a new game in the series.
Yeah.
Right.
I've heard it compared to Xenoblade in a lot of ways, and how it's sort of treated, how it sort of treats a lot of the story elements and just the combat and whatnot. So, if you're into Xenoblade, you might like Final Fantasy XIV. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, possibly. And just in case there is any room for doubt, all of this obviously means that FF14 is going to be alive and healthy for a long time to come. Yoshida was saying, not on the back of saying it's the most profitable game in the series, he also said, it's perhaps unbecoming of me to say, but in terms of our business, we've been able to achieve great success. Moving forward, we're going to spare no expense with our investments to ensure that this game continues to be one which our players can enjoy. And they're already talking about the next 10 years of the game. So
wow,
that's wild.
These games never stop. They just keep going.
It is.
Oh my god!
It is wild to think that they're talking about the next decade of FF14. But yeah, during a recent presentation about it, Yoshida spoke about the next 10 years and thanked the player base for sticking with the game. That comes also courtesy of the IGN article. Wow. And yeah, I mean, this is cool in a vacuum, but it is so cool when you consider how FF14 began and just its
even if you don't care about Final Fantasy XIV
launch.
You there's some documentaries out there about 14's disastrous launch and how they recovered and what Yoshida did that are downright fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the original media tour when FF14, when Square was pushing A Realm Reborn, and interviewing Yoshida while this was happening, and he was making the pitch to journalists saying, I know MMOs, I know Final Fantasy. I'm not going to let a Final Fantasy MMO die. I am bringing everything I need to know into this game. What's funny is, like, I was just comparing it, kind of uncharitably to WoW, and kind of dumping a little bit on WoW in favor of FF14. Yoshida said, actually, look, if not for WoW, Final Fantasy XIV would not be a thing that it is today. Like, we took so much from WoW. We learned so much from WoW. I am a huge WoW fan. Yoshida said in a not too recent video, or a pretty recent video actually. So, but yeah, it is funny to look back on that period when they were doing the media tour and trying to be like, no, FF14, we're going to make it good, and everybody's like, yeah, right, okay, whatever.
Yeah, right.
I remember that original demo; it was rough.
Yeah. I still remember when it first came out, and it was such a disastrous launch, but how they also very smartly were able to weave that into the story for the relaunch and kind of weave it into the game's lore. It was very clever the way they did it, and clearly all their hard work has paid off. 11 years later, it's incredible to see just the incredible success story it's become. So, hats off to you, Yoshida and team and FF14 for all the success. Before we move on to the next news story, though, I have a piece of breaking news. One of our beloved producers, Helen Kincannon, during the show just a few minutes ago, upgraded to the executive producer tier, making Helen our newest member of the EP squad. Helen, welcome and thank you so much for joining the EP squad, and look forward to our first EP community stream of the month this Saturday. So you'll get to hang out with us almost right away and play some games. It's going to be a blast. So thank you so much. And and just to remind everybody, we play games with all of our patrons at the executive producer tier and above twice a month. So if you're curious about that, head on over to our Patreon.
I'm curious. I want to play too. I like video games.
Yeah, it's fun.
As a TNT guest, you are an honorary member always, Kat. So if you want to play with us, and I do believe we're going to be playing Among Us this time. I think we're going to be playing Among Us and Jackbox Party Pack 8. So if that interests
you play Among Us when I'm not
Sounds quite
here.
sus. I look forward to it.
I know. So yeah, if you're interested, I'll
just have to say I'm the worst imposter ever. I have zero chill when I'm playing Among Us. Like people would be like I get caught. Like, I'll just pop out of the vent, and people are like, Kat popped out of the vent. And I'll be like, Or, like, we'll be in the middle of a meeting, and people will be like, why is Kat just sitting there smiling? And I'm like, I'm not smiling. And they're like, she's the imposter. I'm like, God damn it. You say you're the worst imposter. I am the worst Among Us player in general. I'm just not good at social deduction games, period. And I don't really have a lot of affinity for Among Us. So, as bad as you might say you are, I have a feeling I'm even worse. I'm just saying. Oh, thank you, Ash.
I have a feeling. Yeah. But
of course, you always say, I'm not actually that good at Smash, and then, like, proceed to just completely
I don't say that.
Me.
I say you're not that bad. I say, you always talk about how bad you are at Smash, and like, no, give yourself more credit. I just play a lot more than you do. But I just say that you're not as bad as you say you are, and I firmly believe that. You did take a few games off me when we hung out recently, don't forget. But yeah, so this Saturday we'll be playing Among Us and Jackbox. Kat, I'll be happy to reach out to you with more info about that if you'd like to join us.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, before we move on, we have one super chat from Stefan de. I'm so sorry. I'm going to totally butcher this. Stefan de Lint Wouters, I think. Wouters. Okay, cool. Stefan de Lint Wouters saying, with €5, thank you so much, asking, looking to get into FF14 on PC. Would you recommend the Windows version through the Square Enix website or the Steam version? I'm going to plead the fifth because I'm on a Mac. I was playing on PS5, so Anybody else want to weigh in on this? Be my guest.
I got it through the Square Enix website. Works fine for me.
I wouldn't get it through Steam. I've heard there's some problems with the Steam version.
Yeah.
I would just get it through the Square Enix website.
It felt like there was no need to go through Steam, honestly, just because I'm going to be using MoogleNet for everything else.
It's natural to go through Steam because I think people are just used to doing that. But I would look into it, honestly, because there are differences from what I'm able to understand. I have the version from the Square Enix store, and I haven't had any problems with it.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, cool. Well, there you go. There's your answer, Stefan. And thank you so much for the super chat. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to
There's
our
one more.
News. Oh, I was going to hit it after. We can do it now. 1 second. Let me read
I figured we'd squeeze in 2 since we're,
All right, let me read
Jacob Tucker with $5 donation. Thank you so much, saying, I'll be getting my new computer tomorrow, and I plan to stream art and games with it. Hope it goes well, and I can be influential through my work. Hey, you'll build up that audience, and it just takes time. So I think totally possible. That is not an impossible task, and I wish you all the best.
Yeah, and enjoy your new computer, man. That's awesome. Congratulations. And we have had a couple more super chats come in, but we'll go ahead and tackle those after the next news story. So let's go ahead and move on to our fourth story, which is kind of, in a way, a sequel to a story we reported on Monday. So let's get that up on screen. So on Monday, we talked about how Metroid Dread is off to a strong sales start in the UK, and it turned out the same is pretty true of the Nintendo Switch OLED model, especially compared to the Switch Lite. So the Switch Lite, and this comes from gamesindustry.biz, comfortably outperformed the launch week of the Switch Lite in 2019, which ranked back then as the 57th biggest week for the Switch. And Games Industry talks about how the Switch Lite was a slow burner for Nintendo and only represents about 20% of total Switch sales since it launched in September 2019. In 2019. But the OLED version, in comparison, accounted for 70% of all Switch sales just last week. So the Switch OLED model is currently off to a pretty strong start in the UK. It's not quite as overwhelming as what we saw with Metroid Dread, of course, when we talked about that on Monday, but it's a bit different. This is hardware versus software. But speaking to you about it, Steve, I know you are a big fan of this thing. You've been trying to sell me on one, even though I don't play on handheld mode that much. You've been whispering in my ear, like, just spend the money, just do it. You know you want it. And I got to say, this thing's looking sexier and sexier by the minute. And this is just, one more reason to assume that maybe Nintendo really is in no rush to announce whatever the next 4K enabled model of the Switch is. But I don't think we probably have too much to say about this. But in general, last week was the 14th biggest week for Switch console sales in the UK since the original Switch's launch in 2017. So Switch OLED is
pretty popular little system. So
who would have guessed? We've never seen that before.
I'm really curious to see what Metroid Dread's sales end up being, because it's been getting a lot of positive word of mouth. Honestly, way more than I ever anticipated, because when I was seeing this, when I was seeing Metroid Dread in previews and everything in the trailers, like, we weren't getting a huge amount of interest on it over at IGN and that kind of thing. And I was kind of going, it looks like Metroid Dread, it's going to be like a lot like Samus Returns, but on the Switch. I'm kind of concerned that it's going to be kind of a lower budget type Metroid, and I just don't see a situation where it can hit that hard, where it can be the marquee game. And instead, people are like, no, not only is it really good, it is like one of the best games in the series, if not the best. And I'm like, whoa, okay. And I've been playing Metroid Dread, and I have been having a blast. It is a phenomenal game. It is so tightly tuned. Like, the way Samus moves and everything, it's wonderful. And it looks beautiful on that Switch OLED screen. The colors
that's one thing that makes me tempted. I don't have a Switch OLED. I don't plan on getting a Switch OLED, but man, I'd like to see a Metroid running on a Switch OLED.
It looks so much better on the Switch OLED than it does on a TV, normal LCD screen. It looks phenomenal. And I haven't had a lot of time to play video games this week because I've been so busy, but I do plan to play a lot of Metroid Dread tomorrow. It's going to be great. So if you haven't picked it up, I strongly recommend it. It's
Absolutely
amazing.
It is really, really fantastic. I just tweeted last night. I got to play a good chunk last night, fortunately. I'm still working my way through the game. No spoilers, of course. We're not spoiling anything. Don't worry. But I did tweet out about how incredible all the movement tech in Dread is. Like just making your way through the world from point A to point B and just controlling Samus feels so smooth and so good. Just all the little movement tech. And it is incredible, just the movement in that game alone. And I've been able to kind of like mini sequence break twice. I'm not even a sequence breaker, but I've now been able to get 2 expansions for items I don't have yet. And so it says, oh yeah, like, and the game even says like, oh, you picked up you don't have this resource yet, you can't use this yet. And I'm like, oh cool. Listen, I basically did that by doing some creative shine sparking, but the fact that the game is built for that, and they know that people are going to try to do that, and people can do that. I mean, we reported on Monday about how there's a whole special cutscene for a certain boss if you pick up a power up that you're not supposed to have generally supposed to have when you fight that boss. It's so cool, and this game is just wonderful. And on that note, we do have a super chat from Jared Helder for two Canadian dollars asking, could we get a quick take from Kat on Dread, which you basically already just got one. But Kat, was there anything else you wanted to add about Dread?
I am really difficulty discourse. So
okay. That is going to be the major discord.
Spoiler free though, of course. Let's keep it all spoiler free.
I am okay with challenging games, but
Same.
also I am okay with accessibility options. But I don't mind that this Metroid's super challenging. I think it is really cool to be playing a super challenging 2D game that has, just such tight controls, right? When they give me fighting that first boss, the scorpion guy, is just old school stuff. I love it. I really, really enjoy it. So so I reviewed Samus Returns, and I was pretty high in Samus Returns when it came out, but in hindsight, I kind of soured on it because I felt like it overstayed its welcome in a lot of ways and started to get kind of repetitive and everything. That's why I was kind of like feeling hesitant going into Metroid Dread, because I was like, well, Mercury Stream, I don't know. Are they going to learn the lessons from Metroid Samus Returns? And the answer seemingly is yes. They did learn their lessons with Metroid Dread. Which is funny because there was this discourse around it being $60 and it's only like 8 hours, right? It's like when a game is that tight and that good and looks so good on the Switch OLED, I'm okay with it. It's great.
So many people say they jumped right back into the game as soon as they beat it.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest, the rewards for beating it on hard mode or doing the fast times are okay at best, but it's just the experience. It's you wanting to play it just because it's that fun.
The moment-to-moment gameplay feels so good.
And I do wonder about the difficulty curve, but I've seen so many comments, especially on my review that I posted today, where people have said with like, usually I'm not into hard games, but I gave Dread a shot and I love it. And
I think Metroid Dread. I think Metroid Dread. This is kind of a simple way to put it, but a lot of people praise Dark Souls. Yes, turn on the klaxon. I'm using Dark Souls comparison. A lot of people will say Dark Souls is a hard but fair action game. A game that, like, if you really figure out its individual systems and everything, you can be very successful. And it really feels like it's being cheap. And I would say that, at least so far, Metroid Dread follows under much the same category. I can't think of many instances, and I've been playing for a bit, where you go, screw this game. Like, most of the time so far, I've been like, yeah, I just feel so good in the moment-to-moment gameplay. Long may it continue. I hope it continues to be that way as I get further and further into the game.
I think it will.
Well, I'm so glad I'm not the only one here that hasn't finished it, because I thought for a second that I would be. So I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Steve and I have to keep our mouths shut.
Yeah, if you want to feel bad, Ash, I finished it again today. So
well, thanks. I already felt bad. Now I feel worse. So
I'm working. I am one item away from 100%. Just working on the dang shine spark stuff I have to do in order to get that one.
Oh yeah.
Expansion.
Some of those shine spark puzzles.
That's the difficult
really
part for me.
intense.
Is like, my
Yeah.
God, the Shine Spark stuff can be tough.
It's going to be amazing if it ends up getting Game of the Year, like from a lot of places. Like people are like that high on it. Wow, like
it's mine.
Yeah, that would be really cool if it did, because for lack of a better term, at least for awards shows like the Game Awards, and I've said this before about other games.
I think
Dread
Deathloop
isn't typically the kind of game that would win.
I think it'll be Deathloop that cleans up at the major awards. You think?
Show. I feel like the discourse around Deathloop is died.
It fell off a little bit.
Like it got some good word of mouth when it first came out, surprising everybody, but then
when we survey like the entirety of the year, I feel like Deathloop is probably going to float to the surface, but Metroid Dread has a shot at being in the mix, which is not something I would have ever expected when I was initially previewing. Like I figured it would be, no offense or anything, but like like a lower tier Nintendo game, like the second tier kind of Nintendo release, something that wouldn't excite people as much, and instead completely the opposite.
Now I'm seeing the discourse like, oh God, can Prime 4 live up to this?
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, it is wonderful to think that, as you said, Kat, Metroid hasn't typically gotten really the recognition and the respect that it has always deserved, particularly in Japan, and it's so nice to see that Dread has just shot out of the gate with impressive sales right from the start, and it's really it feels weird to say putting Metroid on the map, because Metroid should always be on the map. It should never have been considered to be off of it.
It invented a genre.
Exactly, but it's really kind of re-putting Metroid on the map for a lot of people. And I read earlier today, and I didn't make it a news story, but I read earlier today that apparently sales of Metroid games on Wii U and 3DS have surged in the wake of Metroid Dread's release, like the virtual console ports of games like Metroid Fusion and such.
Metroid Collection would be a really good idea.
Wouldn't it though? Yeah.
Or at least the original Metroid Prime remaster. That'd be nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we move on to our last news story, we do have a couple more super chats. First, 50 Mexican pesos from Moon Ghost Doodles saying, with Ultimate's DLC done, it'd be great to see you do some Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl DLC predictions. If you guys want to, of course. You got Sora, so hope you get Rocco, Ash. Well, thank you, Moon Ghost Doodles.
Is Rocco not in Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl?
Rocco's not in it. No, he's not.
Are there no Rocco Modern Life characters?
No Rocco characters. It hurts my soul. I'm like...
Wow,
Rocco's like my favorite Nicktoon. Yeah.
The disrespect to the finest show that has ever appeared on Nickelodeon.
You are speaking my language.
This game,
favorite classic Nicktoon.
This game is not valid until a character.
Not valid. Straight
up. Needs to be Heifer or Filbert or Rocco. One of Mr. Big Head. One of them has to be in this game. What are you thinking? Oh my!
That was surprisingly good.
If you haven't watched Rocco's Modern Life, go watch it. It is like the most incredible surrealist comedy, slice of life comedy. It is so insanely wonderful, and it holds up. Like you can tell that the creator of that show is going through some existential horror and pain when he was making that show. It's one of the very small handful of Nicktoons that I think holds up just as well for adults as it did for kids. So come on, Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl.
I know.
You freaking Leonardo in, but not Rocco.
Wait. You don't have to hate on TMNT while also
fair.
loving Rocco.
I do love TMNT.
Thank you. I was like, wait a minute, why not both? Why not both? No, I've been saying in the lead up to the release of this game, the whole time I've been hoping Rocco would be revealed, and he just never did. But his name references to him were recently data mined in the game's data, so he may be on the way. Let's hope.
Is Quail Man in it?
No Doug characters. I think because of the Disney factor.
What?
I think you can blame Disney for that one. But hey, if
what about Salute Your Shorts?
Oh my god!
I think they said they wouldn't have any live action ones. The live action ones, like I wanted an Aggro Crag stage.
There you go. See, I'm showing my age by talking about the particular Nicktoons that were like relevant to me. Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah,
Nickelodeon All-Star.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird to think that Doug Funny is, if you think about it, Doug Funny is the Sora, I guess, of Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl.
No. I mean, I guess he is very
in the
pure.
sense that he's like
Owned by
Disney. Owned by Disney, essentially. That's all I mean.
Like Hustle Bun, Pete and Pete. Yeah. Pete and Pete, gotta get in there. Come on. They put the wild Thornberries. They put Nigel Thornberry in there, but not freaking Rocco. Yeah. Give me a freaking break.
I know. I agree. Rocco better be on the way. But to get back to your question, Moon Ghost Doodles, I am going to predict, and we're not going to do a whole discussion right now, of course, but I do predict Rocco will make it in eventually. And I'm also going to say that I predict that the story we reported on last week about the data mine is real. I do think that Garfield and Shredder are going to be the first two post-launch characters. I know, and Shredder. Can you think of any other context that you could say those two characters together? Garfield and Shredder.
Garfield is a very do-it-for-the-memes type selection.
Oh,
it would
God,
be like,
yeah.
It would be like if Sakurai had chosen Chaos and gone with Waluigi as his final DLC character. That's what putting Garfield in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl is.
Yeah. So but we did talk about that data mine last week in an episode about how that data mine pointed to likely the first two post-launch characters, and I do think those two are going to end up being it. But we'll see what happens. We are going to play Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl with all of our patrons in one of our EP streams later this month as well. So that should be a lot of fun. Okay, one more super chat before we move on to the final news story. $10 from Ecto Coolest. I love that name.
That's a good one.
Saying, given the tougher difficulty level of Dread, would you all prefer it if Prime 4 offers a similar level of challenge? Sure. I think as long as you can get right back into the game after each death, and I think Dread excels at that, like dying doesn't feel so much like a punishment. It's just like you learn and you get better, but you get back into the game so quickly. As long as that happens, Yeah,
that's the thing, Ash. Like in Dark Souls, one of the things that was annoying about dying was that the run back to the boss battle was so annoying. Whereas I feel like difficulty has become more and more refined in recent years. I mean, just people are bringing up Celeste, a game where there is no death penalty. Like, it's just increasingly, people are like, don't bother with the death penalty. It's just figuring out an individual challenge, which can be extremely rough. Like, that is the thing. So I think that Metroid Dread does a great job of that with its very, very generous respawn points, which honestly I appreciate. So as long as Metroid Prime 4 does the difficulty well, great. I don't mind.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, and the Prime series has already kind of done a version of this where, whereas Prime 2 came out and was a significant step up in difficulty from Prime 1, not on the level of Dread, of course, but Prime has kind of treaded these waters before where, they established their difficulty level in the first game, and then the sequel came out and it was way harder. So it wouldn't be the first time that the Prime series' difficulty has gone up from game to game. But then again, it went back down in Prime 3, so who knows what's going to happen. All right. We do have one more news story today, and this one is what I like to call the Ashy P special. I picked this one because I'm pretty hyped about this. Possibly. You know what? I think this will reach more than the usual audience for this one because of the nature of what we're talking about. So let's get that up on screen. We'll see if people agree. So we've had a few news stories from ProtoDude's Rockman Corner over the months about Rockman X DiVE, which is now out on mobile in the US as Mega Man X DiVE. But now a new data mine has hinted that there could be a Switch version on the way, which is the first time I've actually really cared a lot about this game because I want to play it on console. I said that before. And what's really interesting about this is that the news story at ProtoDude's Rockman Corner basically points out that we found out about the Steam version in much the same way. The existence of the Steam version, which is now out, not in every territory, but it's now out, was originally found out from data mining the mobile version. And so now this latest data mine is pointing toward a Switch version. Now, who knows when this could actually arrive? It may be 6 months off or more. But if you go by the fact that the Steam version ended up being real, the Switch version may also end up being real. And my only hope is that if it is, it comes out in every territory because we still don't have the Steam version anywhere except in certain Asian territories, I believe so far. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit only because putting a Mega Man X game on console, even if it is mobile gacha, it's still on console. And that, I think, opens up its potential audience a lot more. Kat, have you? I assume you haven't played Mega Man X DiVE on mobile, right?
What is it?
It's basically a mobile gacha version of Mega Man X.
How
it's
does
exactly
that work?
what you think it
so,
is.
Okay.
Because you can buy characters and there's a
buy
lot of fan
characters.
service. Yeah. A lot of
And
fan service.
you're going through levels like a Rockman game, but with gacha characters.
Yeah,
mechanics.
except it's a lot easier
Kinda.
because of the mobile controls and
I
touch
see.
controls.
Exactly.
So I that's my worries. Like, yeah, it'll play better on the Switch. It may be more accessible on the Switch for people who don't play mobile, but it's gonna be so brain dead easy. I feel.
Yeah, I have a feeling they're not going to retune it for console. If this
That's
is
too bad.
real, I doubt they'd retune it.
Are you into it,
but-
Ash? Is this a game that you like?
No, I mean I like the idea of it, and I like all the fan service. Like you know, there are
Uh-huh.
characters from all the different Mega Man series together in one game, and that's pretty cool. But I hate playing platformers on my phone, and I don't really enjoy playing games on my phone all that much. If the Steam version ever came out here, and I'm on a PC by then, and or it's Mac compatible, I'd check it out on Steam. But it really would have to come out on a console for me to really get any sort of excited about it. And to be clear, this is not a stand-in for a potential Mega Man X9 or anything, not even close. But it would be nice to have a console playable version of this game, just in general, I think.
It's a real monkey
And-
paw game, isn't it? It's like, I want a new Rockman X on Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
And the are you afraid of the dark's monkey paw goes?
Yeah. So it is, it is what it is. I know, Derek, you were kind of, I think you hit on something. Even if the game does come to Switch, I don't think it's going to be retuned difficulty-wise, so it probably will become fairly easy.
The
in
fun of that
transition.
game will be getting the new items and getting the other characters, because there are some fun choices in there.
Yeah.
For Mega Man fans. I mean, they have evil Volnut, so that's fun.
Walnut.
Which
Yeah.
I mean, Steve, as much as I know you're not into Mega Man X DiVE, which I think most people aren't, that's fair. It did bring us that new official art of Bad Mega Man Trigger, which was really cool.
That's true. I was going to mention, though, Ash, I feel like you're honor bound to play this game on Switch, no matter how good or bad it is. This is like the seventh
totally right.
time we've
Yeah.
covered this game on this show.
I
Oh,
know.
no, you're totally right.
Ash brings it up every chance he can get, even though he does not care about the game in general sense. It's just an excuse to talk about Mega Man. That's all
Well,
this
it's-
is.
To be fair, though, I actually wouldn't have brought this up again if it wasn't about a potential console version. The reason I did, and I put this as the last story because I figured there would be something more important to talk about. But other than the ongoing stuff between Epic and Apple and now Google and the Activision Blizzard stuff, I realized like the last 3 or 4 episodes, I've had a legal news story on my show like 3 weeks in a row, and I just didn't want to talk about that again. It's so boring. So
It's
I really wanted to
Storm
do
Eagle,
something
not
more
Legal
fun.
Eagle.
Exactly.
Hey,
So I just
Legal
wanted to
Eagle's
do
a
something
great
a bit
channel.
more fun. I figured this would be a little bit more interesting than
Ash,
talking
Top
about
Dog has a bunch of Mega Man questions for you. Okay. Number
Ooh,
1.
Oh,
Are the Mega Man games hard?
Depends.
yes. If you're not used to them, yes, they are.
Number 2. How many Mega Man games are there?
Over 100.
Whoa, really?
If I'm talking about every port, every series, every single game across every sub series, yes. Classic X, Zero, the Game Boy games,
Wow.
ZX, all of it. Yeah.
Number 3.
According-
Are the Mega
according
Man
to-
Legends games on the Switch?
No, but they
that
should
one was
be.
just designed
They
to
really-
hurt Ash.
Heartbreaking.
There are
Yeah.
29
Yeah.
Mega Man games, like original
Number
Mega
4.
Man games.
Am I annoying? Number 5. Should I stop asking questions? Number 6. Why did the chicken cross the road?
You are not annoying. You should not stop asking questions and keep your mouth shut. We love you. And the chicken crossed the road to play Mega Man X DiVE on Switch. There you
So,
go.
Ash, I have to take you to our local retro shop here in Alameda. It's called Experience Share. It had a Sega Saturn kiosk with Mega Man 8.
Oh, wow.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Uh-huh.
That's really cool. Oh,
So
man.
there you go. There's your Mega Man deep poll for this
Yeah.
episode.
And Steve, I think that number is maybe just Mega Man Classic games because off the top of my head, I can count to almost 20 just Mega Man Classic games by themselves without even getting into X, Zero,
Good
arcade
God.
games, ZX, Star
There are
Force.
It's
12
ridiculous when you look into
mainline
it.
original games to begin with.
Let's see. So
Sorry?
the explanation broken down for me is 11 mainline Mega Mans. Yeah, 1 through 11. 8 more
What about
Mega
12?
Man X games.
No, there was not a 12? There was
Well,
12.
Well, Mega Man and
12
base,
yet.
so there's 12.
Mega Man and
12.
base, but
That's
there are
true.
also 5 more Game Boy games, the Rockman World games. There's the Game Gear game. There. The
Oh,
PC
I think they're
DOS
counting
ports.
just console games, maybe.
They
Like,
probably-
home console games. Because everything mentioned 4 from the Mega Man Legends series. Never mind. I don't count this list at all. How are there 4
It's
Mega
not-
Man Legends
I
games?
can tell you right now, it's
What
not a
the
great
hell,
list.
Google?
Unless they're counting like the remake that was on PSP in Japan only.
Which I
Right.
do.
There you go.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and there was Mega Man 64, which is technically a Legends.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
no,
I forgot
not
about
even
Mega Man
technically,
64.
that
So
is a
there you
Legends.
That's the-
there's 4.
That's my hope. That's my hope. Is that's the roundabout way we get at least one Legends game on Switch. Is that Mega Man 64 comes to N64 Online
That would
later
be
down the
cool.
road, and that would be pretty cool.
It's a lesser version, but it's still a version.
It is.
I have
The
it
true
somewhere.
answer to this question is not enough. There are not enough Mega Man games. That is the true answer. So anyway,
Fight for
hopefully
everlasting Mega Man games.
Pretty much.
But I agree with you, Steve. I am honor bound to play the Switch version if it ever materializes, and you wouldn't have to ask me twice. I'd be happy to play the Switch version. I just want to, for all of its failings, and as much as I don't care about it in a vacuum, I would love to play this game on Switch with a proper controller, not on my phone, even with a controller connected to my phone. No, man, I just want to play it on a console. So
I'm
we'll see what
looking
happens.
forward to your take on that. I
Oh, yeah,
want
I know.
to see if it can. I want to see if it can break your eternal optimism. Just
I mean, I'm
Looking
not
forward
expecting
to-
anything big from it. I've played the game enough on mobile, and I've watched enough coverage of it that I know what I'm getting into. It's not, like I said, this is in no way even close to a stand-in for a proper Mega Man X9, or it's not even close. So, it is what it is. But
someday, Capcom. Someday.
Yeah,
Someday they'll stop being mad at Inafune and they'll release another Mega Man game.
it's
They'll,
so weird.
forget for a
11 was
minute,
supposed to be
release a
that
game.
resurgence. Who knows? Who knows? We do know from that Capcom data Giga Leak, though, that there is a game coming called Rockman Tyson. We don't know what it is, but it's coming, and they're making it. So we'll find out, and we'll talk about it on this show, I guarantee you, when we do find out what it is. But with that said, we have reached the end of the show. We do have one more super chat from Purity Chalice for $4.99. Thank you so much, saying, I watched the Metroid review today and really liked it. However, how did Lower Brinstar not be a standout track? That song slaps during that scene. That sounds like a question for you, Derek.
Oh, it's good. I mean, there's the thing. I'm so I there's a reason I couldn't remember it because I'm just zoned in. Like the music's there, but it's like I think back. It's like I can't remember. But that happens to me with a lot with music. A game has to really stand out or like have lulls, but Dread doesn't have lulls and just going from room to room to room and keeping moving. And it's like I'll probably recognize it more in my second playthrough, but. Yeah, I mean, I didn't say the music was bad. It's just none of them jumped out at me. It's like, oh my god, it's so good. I mean, yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, and to be fair, I haven't even finished Dread, and I would say, as someone who obviously loves and is obsessed with the music side of video games, not a whole lot of the music has really stood out to me as well. Certain specific scenes, yes, but in general, I would say the music is the least memorable aspect of the game for me so far. And for me to say that, that's pretty big because I'm all about video game music. So I agree with you, Derek. I see where you're coming from. All right. Well, that does actually bring us to the true end of episode 146. Thank you all so much for your generous super chats. We love you all. But as always, before we head out, Kat, can you please tell our amazing audience where on the internet they can find you?
You can find me in many places. You can find me on my podcast, Axe of the Blood God, a RPG podcast. If you like GVG, you'll probably like Axe of the Blood God. We have a good vibe over there. We just had Ray Chase on for our own Patreon level. He did Noctis and Elfin from
Nice.
Tales of Arise, and also the new Gendo in the Evangelion redub. It was a very fun conversation. You can find me on Twitter
sounds like
at
a lot of
_Kappa. My day job is over at IGN, and I'm a regular contributor / co-host, I guess, over at Nintendo Voice Chat.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show again, Kat. We love you. You are a best friend of the channel. You're one of my best friends,
you.
and we love
Aw.
you. You're always welcome back.
Thank you
Anytime.
so much. Love you too, Ash.
Well, I'm very, very lucky. And before we head out, we did just get one more super chat last minute, $5 from K9 Biscuits, saying, "I'm willing to bet a Crash Bandicoot or any other Activision Mii fighter was planned for Smash, but was canceled because of the company's negative views." Well, thank you for the super chat, K9 Biscuits, but I'm going to disagree with you on that only because at the time, any sort of Activision characters would have been in the planning stages for Fighters Pass 2. These views wouldn't have come out. There's too much of a time differential there. So I don't think that was a factor personally. And I guess there's always a chance that they did have something planned and then pulled it later on, but I just don't get the sense that that's the case. But we'll probably never know either way, so who knows? You could be right. And thank you so much, K9 Biscuits, for the super chat. All right. Well, that does bring us to the end of the show. Thank you so much, everybody. As a reminder, we are Patreon funded, so please do head on over to patreon.com/gvgaming, where you can find out all the different tiers we offer. Each tier comes with a with a bunch of cool perks. Our most popular tier is our live audience tier, where for just $5 a month, you can interact with us and our special guests live throughout each episode of TNT. But as always, we do have to give a special thanks to all of our patrons at the producer tier and above for making this show happen, because without you, it would not be happening. And we love hanging out with all of you 3 days a week during this show. So thank you so much, producers, for making this show happen. But as always, we have to give an extra special thank you to all of our patrons at the executive producer tier and above. And those fine, wonderful, amazing, incredible folks include Brandon Bovia, Rob Arman X, Fangs, Dan and Twistle, Z Patty, Hyrule Hermit, Sky Blue Flames, Adam O'Sullivan, Octopuppet, Richard Herrera, Michael Phone, The D-Pad, Vesmio, Waffle King, Romsky113, Critter XD, Kitty Kong Fax, Angel Martinez, Vedron Hotik, Joshua Hunter, Evernight Studio, Benny Yao, Azran127, Black King, Pagrima, Geller, Joseph Rutkin, Titus Malvolio, Geeky Griffin, Lucky Wonderfish, Kyle, Top Dog 23100, Young Ben Kenobi, Doug Shomix, Andrew Medeiros, Oram M, Sakuragi, Becca, Killamox, Fizzywig Hoyd, The Legend of Groose, Eddie B, Kai Ed, Kit Fisto, Kenneth Lee Stingle, Deaneth, Kota, Sci-Fi Lullabies, Michael McCaw, Matthew Wong, Goron Amber, Straight Lace, Justin Matthews, Hoobie, Too Much Spaghetti, No Such Thing, Mega Conrad, Ascaron 809, Ryaner, Ditto M, Captain Finlandia, 60 Minutes and 60 Seconds, Spicy Pandotter, The Game Orb, Dano the Artist, Super Gamer Dude 101, Grantles, Ravelox, Synchro Lord, Rosa Pardo Bowling.
Hi, Mom.
Kotar Peck, Scuff 196, Kane Woolley, Skull Kid Tiger, Dark Steel 01, Blizzica, Jason Uloa, Jaden Buck, Phantom Project, Cystic Warrior 29, DJ Jurassic, Super Dank Awesome Unicorn Guy, Dinner Sonic, Darik, Chibi J, Stagnasty, every time, Mumbling Yeti, Cameron Sharp, Screamo Shaman, Mason Riley, Keel, Santi the Person, Brendan Hesse, Hustle Bun, Noah Fitterer, Rizemon, and finally, last but certainly not least, our newest member of the EP squad, Helen Kincannon. Thank you all so much for your incredible generosity. Like I said, check us out over on patreon.com/gvgaming if you want to find out more about how you can support us there. But even if you can't, and you just support us on here on YouTube, it would mean the world to us. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel. Every little bit really does help as we seek to grow more and more. And remember, when we hit 75,000 subs right here on YouTube, we're giving away a free Switch OLED model to one of our random subscribers. Literally, all you have to do is be subscribed when we hit 75K, and you might win. Pretty good deal, I think. But either way, thank you all so much. We'll see you Friday for the next episode of TNT. And until then, good night and good vibes. Bye, everybody.
Bye.